Hello, and welcome to Steve's Mixtapes. Happy New Year to you all. Now, my guest mixer this week is a California musician who has played in bands such as Comets on Fire, Feral Ohms, Heron, Oblivion, and Howlin. His latest project is Orcutt Shelley Miller, who recently released a self-titled album where he's joined by Steve Shelley of Sonic Youth and Bill Orcutt of Harry Pussy for 5 tracks of glorious wig-out avant rock. So welcome to Steve's Mixtapes, Ethan Miller.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Yes, I should say, for the sake of realism, we are actually recording this a little bit before New Year, but I'm in the nice position of having quite a lot of shows recorded, so it will be the 3rd of January when this emerges. So I hope you've all had a good Christmas holiday and a Happy New Year. So
we want to wish you a Happy New Year anyways, in advance. Happy New Year.
Good to have it in advance. So, Ethan, I was put in contact with you by Steve Shelley, who's been, as I said to you in our chat in advance, has been a rich source of guests for me and some more to come as well. How did you first meet Steve?
Well, I first met Steve. The very first time I met him was on tour. Sonic Youth took Comets on Fire on tour.
Okay, yeah.
I think that was probably 2003 or 4, somewhere around there. And we hadn't really been out and played with, big bands before and stuff. We were pretty much, I think we'd done a little national touring in our van, sort of counting pennies to fill the gas tank and all crammed into a van with no AC and stuff. But I don't think that we'd really gone and had one of these big, events where we get to open for some of our heroes and play for big venues. And they took us out on a little run of Texas before South by Southwest, maybe South by Southwest.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah.
And so we did 3, 4, 5 gigs. I can't remember exactly what, but it was a big deal for us. And
how did you come to be chosen by them? Was it one of the band who was particularly into Comets on Fire?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty hip crew, those people all had their ear, deep in what was going on, especially with experimental music and experimental rock music and stuff. So, I don't know, if I don't know which one of them, maybe it was Thurston, because he really is so voracious about,
he is, yes,
everything.
And if anybody hasn't listened to episode 29, I think it was Thurston. I mean, we had a long chat. I mean, we were going, I think we went for an hour and 3/4, and I felt he could have gone on for another hour and 3/4 talking about music. I mean, he really is an enthusiast, isn't he? Now, you might be able to tell, listeners, from the introduction, the Orcutt Shelley Miller album I mentioned, I'm a big fan of. I've been listening to that a lot. It's right up my street. So congratulations on that album, because I think it's great. Am I right in thinking you recorded it live at your actually first show together?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we went together. We got together to record the album in the studio for 2 days, and in Los Angeles. And then the engineer Eric Bauer suggested that he said, "Well, I used to work at Zebulon. They have a full multi-track set up and ready to just like push the button on there. It's so easy. Why don't, since this is improv." And you guys don't know what's going to be happening anyways in the studio, why don't you do the 3rd day at Zebulon as a live show, earn some money and basically get paid while you do your album session or whatever, which I thought was ingenious, and it also gave us that opportunity, under the gun to you take that extra step, that extra lift up, that you can't quite do in the studio, just standing around. All right, you want to do this, want to do that. All of a sudden, you're on stage, crowd energy, and you've got an hour and a half to really put it out there. So that's you're the first notes on the record, or the first notes we ever played live. And
but I know I really like it. It seems to have gone down well from what I've read in terms of reviews. And so, are you pleased with its reception?
Yeah, I really was. I think. I don't know exactly how Steve feels about it, but Bill and I said in the rental car at the end of the last tour that we both felt like it had exceeded our expectations, You put some things together and do a group, and you're pleased with it, with the recordings or the way it sounds, and you think, in this kind of experimental or psychedelic or avant rock or whatever, like, well, I'm pretty sure that we got something great here, and that means either, you know, 300 to 500 of our known friends and heads and esoteric, radio DJs or something will like it, or maybe a lot more. You never know, and so, I think that's where we, started with a modest, thinking about it was just, I think at the very least, I know Brian Turner will like this,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
I know Steve will like it from Steve's
yeah.
mixtapes. It's like,
Oh
and then
yeah.
let's see if other people can catch on from there, because they're always listening to ready for this
Well,
kind of thing.
well, what I really like about it is Bill goes off at a tangent. He sort of follows an idea and he takes it almost to its logical conclusion, and then it's like you and Steve sort of pull it back. Just when it feels like it might run out of steam a bit, it's like you and Steve sort of pull it back into another direction as well. I think it's I really 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 like it. Will you do any more?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, honestly, Steve, we don't really know what we're doing. It's just, we're
Doesn't the
just,
best music often come out of that though?
well, I think that's the success of our band, is that we didn't have a plan. I joke now that in the studio on like the second day, Bill was like, "Was I supposed to bring some riffs or something? You told me not to bring anything, that we were just going to do pure improv." I was like, "I never said that." I mean, I brought some riffs, and so we have a history of, kind of either, dancing, merrily into the abyss, or purposefully, trusting in the power of chance, and the chemistry of the band and stuff. That's on stage. That was in the studio when we did our thing at Zebulon. And I do think that is what people like. It makes us sound like a band,
Yeah.
instead of artists playing together, or whatever.
So, as I said, the album is called Orcutt Shelley Miller. It's on Bandcamp. I would strongly encourage you to go, as I did, and buy it. And he's looking forward to some ones coming out in the future. And I'll put a link to the Bandcamp page on the page for this mix at stevesmixtapes.com. Right, okay, I think we should get on to your actual mix now. So tell me about your sort of process of putting it together, because people seem to vary. There are those who just, write it off the top of their head. There are some people who agonize for days and days and days about it. What was your process?
Yeah, I did. I put a little work into it, because I realized that I've been kind of I've been a little under the influence of other people's things they've turned me on to recently. So I didn't want to end up. I was like, I need to go back and really put stuff that's kind of right up my alley or meaningful to me. Try not to go too deep on the things that I've been turned on to lately, because they're all somebody else's music to some extent. Like we just got out of the van, a couple of weeks ago from the West Coast tour with Steve and Bill for our Orcutt Shelley Miller tour on the West Coast, and we were listening to a lot of music in the van. Steve and I was driving, and Steve and Bill were DJing on the iPods or phones or whatever, and so I came out of that like, with a bunch of cool stuff I got turned on to or reminded of, or things we listening together. And so first I was trying to keep that off the playlist, because, I don't know, it's sort of like, that's the story of our van ride, and has been documented elsewhere.
Okay.
So,
Well,
but there's a few things on there like that, that
well, I have to say I enjoyed it a great deal, and we'll talk about more as we get to it. For your hit the ground running track, I should say in advance, this song contains language not safe for work, and if you're offended by profanity, then you might want to skip on a couple of minutes. So this is Neil Michael Haggerty of Royal Trucks and Pussy Galore. And I didn't know this album. It's from an album called Plays That Good Old Rock and Roll that came out in 2002. And the song wasn't quite what I expected based on the song title. So the song is called Shaved Cunt, which I'll talk about that word in a moment, which kind of puts you in mind of a completely messy, psych, wig out, butthole surfers type thing. And actually, although it builds up and gets a little bit manic towards the end, it's a little bit more understated than that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this whole album by him, I don't know. I've been thinking about Neil a lot. I love his guitar playing. I love this record when I came out. I just moved to Santa Cruz and I'd known about I grew up here in Eureka in the middle of nowhere, in the deep in the redwoods here. And somewhere pre-internet, while we're getting turned on to things, the royal trucks had trickled in, the lore of this band and their glamour chunky, larger than life, like deconstructed rock and roll music and stuff. And I got a couple records, the Skulls record, the Cats and Dogs record. And I was just like, yeah, this is my jam. I love this. I don't quite completely get it at age 17 yet, but but I get everything I need to know to love this stuff. And fast forward a few years, and I'd moved to Santa Cruz, and we were starting Comets on Fire. And I think Neil put out this Plays the Good Old Rock and Roll record on Drag City. And it was just perfect for, just having moved to this kind of drug-addled, sun-baked seaside California town. That's kind of, it's sort of the Rolling Stones meets the Butthole Surfers or something like that, right?
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Pretty good, yeah.
Satisfies those things. Like he satisfies the feeling of like Exile on Main Street, like riffs or something where you're like, God, those are good riffs. God, that just feels like these like cool junkies in Rolls Royces kind of riffs. And then just when you think you're gonna like kick back and smoke a doobie and do that, it's gets real challenging, and that sort of Butthole Surfer's Edge you talked about like comes in and sort of like clangs up your brain a bit, and Neil does that makes those two things happen in a way that it's just so him and so unique, and I just don't think anybody's done it quite as well, and I don't think he gets the credit in his solo career, that he should.
They said you were pushy, said you were vain. It didn't matter how hard you worked. Everybody thought you were just a jerk. Now I see shining sliver. Now I see you got a brand new car. At long last, someone wants you. It's known around the world. Picture of a woman from the belly button to the knee, in a style that some might call Chinese. But it might not have been what the Central Committee had in mind. But it sure is a beautiful sight here in the pale street light after this long, long day. And it makes me feel like everyone is kind. your face.
Neil Michael Haggerty with Shaved Cunt from Plays That Good Old Rock and Roll from 2002. The swear word is an interesting one because I have a number of conversations about with online friends about differences between US and UK culture. And that word, I think, is used very differently. It is still probably the most taboo of the swear words in the UK, but I think it's used differently from what I gather. Correct me if I'm wrong. So here, it tends to be used more man describing another man, and there can be something almost affectionate about it, as in, you know, you're a bit of a daft cunt, you sort of thing. Whereas it has a slightly more harsh and aggressive edge in America. Is that right?
I mean, I think so. You know, it cracks me up that I was just going to say that even you made a big deal about the Brits throw this word around like it's, you know, just
well, it depends what country you're in.
And then when an American says it in the company of Brits, they're like, oh my God, you know, like you just, you know, it's still just like on the edge of one of the last taboo. Yeah, it sounds really harsh. The Brits throw it around like it's a you know, like you're in a pillow fight or whatever, and the Americans, kind of wield it like a battle axe and stuff, you know, and it is a little bit shocking, you know. It's the same word, and really, I'm pretty sure it comes from the same basis. I like one of the reasons out off this incredible Neil Haggerty album and all the great songs, I partly chose this song because I was like, that's so Neil that this great song. It's kind of in two parts, and he called it Shaved Cunt. And I was like, if you want to hit the ground running, that's the perfect name for the first song on this mixtape, you know.
And worth pointing out, it's a word with a great deal of history. I mean, it's in Chaucer, it's in the Canterbury Tales. Having done The Wife of Bath for my A level in English literature years and years ago, it's definitely there. Anyway, shall we move on from rude words about the female genitalia to your next track? Now, Ethan, I always ask this question of mixers. Have you always been somebody who is habitually fond of making mixtapes and compilations and playlists and all the rest of it?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you have a big old box of C90s up in the loft?
Oh, probably. Yeah, I think so. I don't know where. I mean, those things, they wore out. You know, I mean, they're just, there was a you know, for quite a while there. You know, if you had a mixtape, you know, typically you'd take that, you know, in your pocket or whatever at every party that you were rolling around to, and finally they'd get lost when you're up till dawn partying at some house you have no idea where you're at, you know, jamming the mixtape, party tape, and finally the tape just snaps from being played so many times, or it wears out. But you know, living up here in Humboldt, you know, before you still had to mail away and 6 weeks later get a record, you know, or something, and be like, wow, here's this record I've never heard of. You know, a friend bought it because of forced exposure, or this friend bought it because their older brother knew about it from when he used to live in New Jersey and bought it from the record fair there. So, you know, it took a lot to get the information. And some of the older, you know, music heads giving you a mixtape, a 90-minute or 120-minute, like you said, of things. If you're 17 years old and, you know, a 20 or 22-year-old that maybe lived in the city and had been around and had some serious record collection, you know, that could be, you know, that's just, your whole mind is opened up and blown.
It's interesting. One of my kids turned 18 last week, and I took him out for lunch, and we walked past a display of a place selling vinyl. Which, you know, the one thing that shocks me is how much vinyl costs these days, but that's another story. But he said to me, I find it really weird that back in your day, you used to buy these albums and you hadn't heard quite a lot of the songs on them. And that to him is completely alien. The idea that you buy an album and not having listened to all of it in advance. That's been such a huge cultural shift, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that what you would have, you know, what we relied on was word of mouth and critics, you know, that if you have a trusted critic, that there's people like, if you have Paul Major's letter or you read Byron Coley's column or something like that, and they mention something and it's got some of the key words for you, you know, that, oh, there's a little bit of Velvet Underground and a little bit of Bubble Puppy and a little bit of this and that, you know, and you're just like, oh my God. And you know, then I'm going to give it a try. I mean, God, and they say it's great. Then, you know, in some ways, you know, because music sometimes takes a thought process, just like art, and a little bit of background and some time to sink in. In some ways, I think that some of these critics or enthusiasts or whatever you might want to call people like Byron Coley and Paul Major and stuff that may have turned us on to these things through pamphlets, that you could trust their ears more than you could trust your own, because I'm sure you and I both find ourselves listening to a new band on the internet for 10 seconds at a time. And if we aren't immediately engaged, then we're like, okay, well, I don't think I'm into that. You know what I mean? And what your kid doesn't know is that you had that record and you took it home, and my God, you were going to listen to it many times to find out if you really.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Actually, yeah, because if you'd spent, in my era, it was probably about $4.99 on an album. You brought it home, you didn't like it first time, you kept listening, and you worked at it. Now, as you're quite right, there's couple of times I been recommended an artist, I've gone on Spotify or whatever, I've listened to 30 seconds of 3 songs and thought, no. And that's it. So shallower times, arguably, but anyway. Shall we with your something old choice? We're going back to 1970. Now, it's an interesting artist, this, because for most people, I would say in the UK, this artist, when they hear the name, they think of a person. But of course, this band was a band before the band's name became the person, if that makes any sense. So I'm talking about Alice Cooper. And this is the days when Alice Cooper was still a band, wasn't it? Before it became the man with the snakes and all the rest of it.
Well, he made it all. The band, I think, made it up through their hit platinum, through a couple of platinum records. Like they made it up through, I'm pretty sure it's the original band up through $1 Billion Babies.
Yeah. But what I would mean is, for if you ask anybody in the UK, who's Alice Cooper, they will think of the individual, and they'll think of the song Schools Out, which is by far the best known over here.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, that's probably true for anybody, because he's an enormous figure in rock and roll and shock rock and metal and stuff like that. So it is true that
but this is not shock rock or hard rock or metal at all. It's almost like psychedelic pop, this, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. They came, their history was, well, and if you ask like music heads and band heads that are into this stuff, they would, check mark that issue I said about that original band, because known to people that were into it is that the band themselves, you can hear it on here, you can hear it on all those albums. They had a very peculiar way of playing heavy music that was, proggy without ever losing pop elements, psychedelic without ever being, tropey about it. The great riffs and stuff. I don't know. The band is amazing.
I know a shoe salesman is an acquaintance of mine. One day he showed me some marks on his arms in a line. I do not know what to say. Do you think those freckles will stay? Do you want lemon or lime? I got a special today, if you've got the time. Winking, she pokes me in the side, but we could go for a ride. I do not know
From the 1970 album Easy Action. That was Alice Cooper with Shoe Salesman. Right, now Ethan, another standard question I ask all of my mixers before we get to the something new choice is, given that there is a ridiculous amount of music that's released every day online, how do you try and keep abreast of contemporary music, or do you even really try?
Yeah, I do. I try for sure. I mean, I run a record label, so what kind of fool doesn't try to keep up with, you know,
So how do you do it? How do you go about it?
Yeah, and I'm a music lover, so I love hearing new music. But I guess I look at the Bandcamp releases. I try to read reviews in magazines. My life running a record label is fairly engrossed with online music industry stuff, reviews and following other critics and just word of mouth and looking at the digital streaming platform new releases. The stupid algorithm shows you things like, hey, you like Neil Michael Haggerty, then well, here's the new Black Bananas release just came out, and you're like, well, I had no idea. Great. So I try to get it in any way possible.
So your choice is Sir Richard Bishop. So tell us about this choice then, Ethan.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful new album that Rick made. Ben Chasney, who's my ex-Comets bandmate, and he was telling me he had an advance of the record that Rick had shared with him, and he kept telling me over coffee, oh man, this is an incredible record. Rick really is. It's his best solo record yet. He's really outdone himself with his playing, and yeah, when I took a listen to it, I agreed. I thought I was quite enamored with it. I think it's improv. I think incredible.
Sounds it, yeah. I mean, I haven't listened to the whole album yet. It's joined, as I've said on a few shows. Every time I do one of these, I get like 4 or 5 artists or albums to put on the to listen to pile, which gets longer and longer and longer. But yeah, it sounds it. I mean, the Quietus, the website, described it as rollicking, shit-kicking folk nimbly played with gusto, which I thought was a pretty good description.
Yeah, I mean, if it's all improv, as I'm pretty sure it was, it's a triumph in that category, because it's Rick is a rhythmically an incredible rhythm player, and melodically there is so much rich melodic and harmonic information going on, that the melodies sound like heads, like, oh my gosh, he must have written that one, you know what I mean, to bring that in and have such a successful song out of this improvisation over and over again. But I don't think he did, because he posted something on his Instagram a while back where to go out and tour the album, he had to go and try to what do you call it, like when you reconstruct it,
okay, all right,
yeah, and he was like, this is really challenging. I have no idea how I did that now, or what frame of mind I was in, or it's technically challenging, and so I think he got himself in a little bit of a bind. But
okay, all right, well, let's hear the song you chose now. This is called They Shall Take Up Serpents. From the 2025 album Hillbilly Ragas, that was Sir Richard Bishop with They Shall Take Up Serpents. Okay, Ethan, on to your Something Borrowed choice. Now, this is an interesting one because this is from a lost album, isn't it? That reappeared a long, long time after it was recorded. So P.P. Arnold will probably be fairly well known to UK listeners. I mean, she had two big hit singles in here in the late 60s, Angel of the Morning, which is, I have to say, one of my favourite songs. I love Angel of the Morning. And probably even better known, First Cut is the Deepest, the Cat Stevens song. I was interested to learn she never had a hit in America.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Really surprised by that.
I do. I think that she's a little more of a, we call like a Dusty Grooves crate digger, DJs, stuff like that probably know these, from the soul music and stuff. But
this is interesting because this is an album. This was going to be, I think, her third album. So the songs were all recorded in the late 60s, early 70s. I think this one you've chosen was recorded in 1970. Barry Gibb and Eric Clapton were producing the album at the time, but for whatever reason, it never got released. And the song you've chosen is a cover, and it's actually a cover version of a traffic. You mentioned Canterbury scene before. It's a cover of a traffic signal. So, yeah, it's an interesting backstory and a great song.
Yeah. I thought this one actually is borrowed also by me.
Okay.
Because a DJ was playing it somewhere on tour in a club, and I heard it, and I remember like, wow, who's, or maybe the next day the drummer of Howlin' Rain, Justin Smith, was like, that was pretty cool. He was playing that P.P. Arnold cover of Medicated Goo last night. And I was like, oh, wow. And we listened to it again. I thought, man, yeah, she just kills it. I mean, it's just one of those peak soul tunes, and some of those traffic tunes, like Joe Cocker taking Feeling All Right, and it just goes to the next level. I guess that Traffic knew how to do a pretty good tune and then set it up for a certain artist to take it and just knock it all the way out of the park. And I just thought P.P. Arnold really did that, and this song's kind of stuck with me for it's such an interesting tune, even for Traffic. The Medicated Goo is such a great song title, and probably everyone listening is just like, wow, what exactly? So it's kind of gross sounding,
So
P.P. Arnold with Medicated Goo, her cover of a Traffic single that was released in 1968. The album it's on is called Turning the Tide. It was released in 2017, though, as I say, it was all recorded late 60s, early 70s. Right, on to Something Blue, Ethan. Now, I really like this choice, and I wasn't actually familiar with this band. So this is Beings, 4 New York-based musicians, the only one of whom I was particularly aware of was Jim White, who's in it. The others are Zoa Amber, Steve Gunn, and Shazad Ismaili, if I'm saying that correctly. So tell me about Beings.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I felt like this record went by a little under the radar. It's another record I clicked on, saw something pop up somewhere. Was it No Quarter that put it out, I think? Maybe I got a release notification on Bandcamp or something, but I clicked on it and was just like, oh man, I love this. I think Zoe, who's a New York City saxophonist, and she plays with Bill Orcutt and Chris Corsano, and so I kind of got to know her a tiny bit through Bill, but I actually was a fan of this record before I met her. And she produced it. I think she put the players together and got them all in the room. And basically, I think that they improvised this, but it sounds real vibey and songy, And, I don't know. For me, with this inside outside ethereal, it's not really free or spiritual jazz, but it has those elements sort of haunting the rafters. And Steve Gunn's a brilliant guitarist. He's playing very understated but very cool stuff in here. And I was like, this is right on my radar, and I try to tell everybody about it that I that I could, and I don't know many people that know it.
That was Beings with Small Vows from the 2024 album There Is a Garden. And I like that a lot, actually. It reminded me, there were a lot of bands around, I think in the early 2010s, playing that sort of dark jazz type stuff. You know the Kilimanjaro Dark Jazz Ensemble? Have you come across them?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay, so well, maybe check that out. So a lot of quite understated sort of jazzy stuff, but I like this because it takes that, but it sticks that really skronky sax on the top, which I really like. So yeah, great. Added to the pile that I mentioned before of albums to listen to more in the future. So we're going to take it down now. Speaking of sort of jazzy type stuff, we've gone for some jazz here, and this is Mal Waldron. Mal Waldron, I said that correctly. This is from 1962, but it's not just him. It's got Eric Dolphy and Booker Ervin on sax. So tell us about this choice.
The credit goes well. Okay, I'll tell you what. I really got for a while, like around maybe 2012 or so. I just got all hooked on the clarinet sound and how like I was like, man, I really want to hear like mournful clarinet in jazz. And I asked Joel Robino, who was in Once and Future Band and Howlin Rain. He's the keyboardist, and he's a real jazz aficionado. And I said, where can I find like the clarinet seemed to go away after Benny Goodman. It's not played very much. Feel like it's such a deep vibe for like ballad playing. And even in the era where clarinet ruled on hot big band jazz, you didn't hear much balladry with it. I'm like, why is it, why is that? And he bought me this Mal Waldron record and gave it to me as a gift and said, here, and specifically check out this song.
Warm Canto by Mal Waldron from a 1962 album called The Quest. And if you have any suggestions about clarinet-based jazz, then please send them in to Steve's Mixtapes and I'll pass them on to Ethan for his listening pleasure. Okay, right then, Ethan, we're on to your Around the World choice. And this is a bit of a first in a way because it has a song title that I cannot say, but we'll come to that in a moment. I always ask people when we get to this bit, do you listen to a lot of stuff that is neither UK nor US based?
Yeah, I go through phases, I mean, I'm not a specifically, some people as record collectors, I mean, we both probably well know these folks that they get to a certain stage where they cast off everything except for like reggae singles, or they cast off everything except for Nigerian, certain kind of Nigerian like dance club music. And they're like, that's all I'm doing anymore. And all 10,000 other records they collected are meaningless. But so I haven't gotten to that zone. I try to keep a healthy look-see. And a lot of what I discover, when the Ethiopics series came out in the last 10 years, there's been such an expansion of international music reissued by, Western labels and stuff. I end up getting a lot of information and discovery through those kinds of things.
So the artist you've actually gone for is a Japanese trio, sort of a psych rock trio. When I Googled them, a link came up from Prog Archives, which is quite a good site, actually. I peruse that site quite a bit. And they described it as, they have a very unique style that each player produces heavy, loud, confusing psychedelia based on simple riffs with insistence on musical attitude and with support of the others simultaneously. I suspect that was written by somebody who's perhaps English wasn't their first language, but reminded me of an album we were talking about at the beginning of the program. Really?
Oh! It reminded you of our album.
Yeah,
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, what you just described, I thought was really, and I do think that I thought about Musica Transonica, or Musica Transonic. I don't think there's an A at the end, is there?
No, it's Musica Transonic. I think yes, that's what.
Musica Transonic. They were a group that like Nanjo was the leader of High Rise and one of the members of Mainliner, and those groups were big groups to my understanding of psychedelia when I got into psychedelia. The Japanese, specifically the PSF records, and Musica Transonic and Fushitsusha and High Rise and White Heaven, these groups were coming over just a little on the edge of pre-internet. So we're still like, what is this stuff? What are these guys doing? It's like our 60s San Francisco and Los Angeles psychedelia hit Tokyo in the 80s and early 90s, and then just whipped it, into an electrical storm in a prism and shot back at us. And we were getting these signals, and it was this just napalmed, blown out, fragmented, rendition of kind of dusty old 60s California psychedelia. And now, this crazy electrical storm with napalm blowing around everywhere. And we just were like, what in the fuck? This is the greatest thing that's ever happened to rock and roll.
I should warn listeners, if you're not a big fan of guitar solos, this might not be quite up your street. Or the wah-wah pedal. The wah-wah pedal is liberally deployed. But I think this is great. This is right up my street. So this is Musica Transonic. Musica Transonic from 1995. I cannot tell you the title of the song. It will be on Steve's mixtapes.com webpage. It appears to be in Greek, which is a bit odd for a Japanese artist, but I tried Googling it, putting it in Google Translate, and nobody seems to know what it means. But what I can tell you, it's the first track on the album. I said, Ethan, if you're not a fan of guitar solos, you won't like this. And speaking of guitar solos, while I was looking through various things, I came across a review on Pitchfork. I can't remember which of your records. It might have even been for the Orcutt Shelley Miller one. And somebody said that his favourite ever guitar solo was your one on Howlin' Rain's Calling Lightning with a Scythe.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll come back to this because I have been listening to quite a lot of Howlin' Rain, but I couldn't bring that song to mind. So I went to listen to it, and it is indeed quite a thing, your solo on that. And what do you remember recording it particularly?
I remember it well. Yeah, I do. I am quite proud of that one.
And so you should be.
I think it's a competitive guitar solo. I think it's up there with. I mean, there's things I don't think everything I do. Everybody feels a little bit like self-conscious about their own stuff. I think like, oh, I wish my voice was a little better. I wish this or that, or whatever. But that is one moment in music that I've done that I thought, that's I'll stand that up next to anybody as a statement in guitar solos.
I'll put a link to it on the webpage for this mix, and it's an absolute cracker. And I have to say, I must confess, when Steve passed on your details, I was obviously very well aware of Comets on Fire. I didn't know Howlin' Rain at all, but I've been listening to it a lot.
Okay.
I particularly like the Dharma Wheel. Yeah. I mean, all of it, but I particularly like that one. So, a Howlin' Rain still a going concern?
Yeah, it's something that's been going now since like 2004 we started. 2006 the first record came out, so we're almost on 20 years since the record release. And over 20 years it's been going. The membership has turned over many times. I kind of started it a little bit in the King Crimson guise of like things will turn over and the group will sort of sound like the people that are in it, and I'll sort of either be a benevolent or malevolent, dictator trying to help the thing continue on through the ages.
I'm not sure America needs any more malevolent dictators at the moment, but let's not go there.
And I feel like I'm pretty benevolent in it. I think you can hear the difference in the groups and stuff, which is I guess I threw that in just because I think Robert Fripp would have probably said, well, not necessarily benevolent dictator, in King Crimson.
Well, I don't think anybody would describe Robert Fripp as a benevolent dictator.
Exactly. So I thought I don't know what I am to that. I'm the caretaker, the guy at the front of the boat with the little light out there.
Okay. Well, if you ever fancy bringing Howlin' Rain over to the UK to play, you'll definitely find me right down the front.
Awesome.
Okay, let's move on to your left of center choice. Now, this is, I had a number of discussions in a various number of forums about the left of center choice, about what it actually means. But I think you've probably really captured the true meaning of left of center. Now, many listeners won't be aware of this artist. I had heard of them, and I know how this music is made, and it is kind of fascinating, isn't it? So, do you want to tell everybody about the Thai Elephant Orchestra?
Well, as far as I know, what it is some people at an elephant monastery in Thailand. They, obviously dealing with the elephants, they were like, these elephants are really creative and intelligent, and so they ended up getting them some drums and different kinds of instruments to play. And basically, I think it was just like a creative playtime. They also, I think something maybe people have known a little more for a while. There was popularity with elephant paintings. That they were painting. Yeah. You could buy an elephant painting, and then the money that you spent on the painting would go to the monastery for the upkeep and the quality of life for the elephants. And I think this was just an earlier version of that. The elephants were making music guided by their handlers, helped by their handlers. I think that what the handlers were basically doing was setting up the instruments and recording material, and then giving them their creative time, a couple hours a day to play and do their thing. And it's quite beautiful music. I think it shows it's striking. It shows
Yeah.
more than just an outside sense of banging around on things. That there's when you really listen to it, you're like there's some core understanding of creative music making here. And it's
Well,
very,
well,
very beautiful.
as I say, I did know about the Tale of an Orchestra. I'd heard this album before, but I did do a bit of googling, and I found that in the 1950s there was an evolutionary biologist, a German guy called Bernhard Rensch, and he did a lot of experiments on elephants and discovered that they can distinguish all 12 tones on a musical scale. They can remember simple melodies, even when played on different instruments at various pitches and meters. So there's a lot going on musically with elephants.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, period, with elephants. I think
Yeah.
it's, part of our, human folly that we know so little about them or respect so little about them, and everything else. But that's another story.
The Thai Elephant Orchestra, and that was Thung Quan Sunrise by the rather amusingly titled Smash Hits by the Thai Elephant Orchestra, released in 2015. That did give me a smile, I have to say.
And it's probably worth stating too that if people are listening to it and they like it, it's pretty easy to Google these monasteries or what do you call them, sanctuaries for for Elephants and donate money if, I don't know if this album's still in print or not out there to buy and stuff, but there's a lot of easy ways to contribute still if you want to.
And I'll put some links up on the stevesmixtape.com webpage for this so that people can have a look.
Cool.
Okay, then, Ethan, your wild card choice. Now, this was not an artist that I knew. This is another New York one. I found an interview with them. The interviewer was very enthused about them, calling them the best band in New York City at the moment. I liked the song. It reminded me, musically, it reminded me a bit of the Triffids. And the guy's voice sounded a bit like, Stephen Merritt from Magnetic Fields.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was the combination I got. But yeah, I really liked it. So the wild card, you can choose whatever you want. So why go for this one?
Yeah, something popped into my mind. I kind of had a little Mike Bones is a guitarist that's been around New York City for a long time. And he was just kind of, I think, forming this group, or they were just getting going, putting out their first record when Howlin' and Endless Boogie, Endless Boogie?
Yeah.
We'd gone to tour. We'd gone to tour Australia, like right when Australia opened up from the pandemic. We were in the bands were in the newspapers, like American touring returns to Australia, like the 2 days after the lockdowns lifted or something. And so we went over and had this wild, fun time touring over there, kind of in the middle of the pandemic still. And I'd known Mike through like his killer band Soldiers of Fortune and some different groups. And he was just getting this one together. And I think this is probably their third record. But the last time I was in New York,
actually, I should say, Ethan, we haven't actually said what the band's called at this point, which I should have. So this is Weak Signal. They're called
Weak Signal. Yeah, it's great, right? Sounds like a retro broken, like an early cell phone thing or something like that, which is cool. And so Weak Signal, they just. Last time I was in New York with Orcutt Shelley Miller playing our first show, I heard on WFMU, I heard this song, and I had forgotten that I'd already known it because I listened to the record, when the single was coming out and press play on it a bunch of times and stuff. But I was like, oh, what is this? Like some kind of lost, like a lost New Zealand band, or like a early, or like an 80s, like lost, New York band or something like that. And then when it hit me that, oh no, it's Mike, it's Weak Signal. And then a few hours later, I was at Union Pool and he was there bartending. And I was like, Mike, I just heard your jam, and I thought it was like a sensational lost hit, and I don't know, it just gave me a great feeling, when you hear a friend's music on the radio and you think that it's some all-timer jam, and then you realize that it's that they've successfully made you feel that way without any prompting, just randomly in a car listening to the radio.
from the 2024 album Fine, that was Weak Signal with Wannabe. Before we get to your finale, actually, Ethan, I've just noticed, I didn't notice it before, your choices actually are very contemporary, aren't they? A lot of people seem to choose songs that, were current in their mid-20s, stuff like that. You've got a lot of stuff that's pretty recent. Was that a deliberate choice, or is that just how it's worked out?
I mean, I try to, if I'm listing things publicly, I try to enhance, the notion that, that there's never been a better time than now to be hearing all the things that are happening of the moment. And that consistently remains true. It'll be true in 5 years. It's like, music is not going downhill. All the music did not stop being good in the 1970s or whenever the fuck your favorite time period was, when you were first, out kissing some girl behind the barn, listening to your single on the radio or something, whatever your nostalgia is. And I hate hearing people say that, well, I don't listen to anything after this because it's all bullshit after that. And it's like, it's not, that's just all in your fucking head. There's never been more access to incredible music, and there's never been more incredible music.
And there was plenty of terrible music in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and the 50s.
It's all perception. You keep participating and keep engaging. And so I do try to do that, because I also, yes, of course, I could fill Steve's mixtapes with, all bands from 1973 that I love, that I've never gotten over and stuff. But there's a real.
I mean, to be fair, I would probably quite have enjoyed that.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, it would be a great tape or whatever. But but there is a sense.
I know what you mean. Yeah,
there's a sense of discovery and joy and participation in the now. It's important.
So, Ethan, before we get to your finale choice, I normally ask guests about what they've got in terms of future plans. So we've talked about hopefully another Orcutt Shelley Miller album coming up. Anything else you've got in the pipeline?
We have I guess this doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm about to go on tour next week. I guess that'll be done by the time this airs.
Yeah.
By the time this airs, we will have UK dates for Orcutt Shelley Miller announced.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be nice. In Europe.
Have they actually been finalized or not?
Pretty close. Not quite all the way, but pretty close. Right. Yeah.
Well, if there isn't a date in Manchester, can I campaign quite heavily for a date in Manchester?
Okay, I can't remember if there is or not, but yeah, we'll check it out.
I live in the middle of nowhere, and Manchester is quite, by some distance, the most easily accessible place to me. So,
yeah. And I'm working on a new Odyssey Cult record. It's another one of my groups. I have a Howlin Rain covers record that you'll probably like because it's very 70s centric. Not a lot of contemporary covers, That's my 70s rock group where I get away with,
Well, I mean, Howling Rain doing 70s covers. I mean, you'd sold me there, Ethan. You don't have to go any further.
Yeah. Exactly.
So anyway, your finale choice is an artist I was not familiar with. It's another one from New York. So this is Julie Beth Napolin.
Yeah, Julie. This record, I mean, to be completely transparent, I put this record out on my label.
Okay.
But every time we do one of these, Bill always half his list is like artists on his label, and he's like, "This artist did not get enough exposure." This is like the Beings thing. It's like the Neil Michael Haggerty thing, where I'm like, I keep shouting it. If we were out at coffee with a stranger, I'm going to tell him about this record, because I'm like, God damn it, it's just underappreciated. And then, whenever people hear it, they're like, God damn, that's good. I really did like that. What the fuck has that been? And Julie's record, I think, there's not very many female singers that sing in that register, that Nico register. It's very striking to me. I love that right out of the gate. Her songwriting, it's very monolithic and pared down, but it's also, sonically and harmonically delicate. I don't know. There's just a lot of really deep.
The Bandcamp page describes it as elementally vast in its thematic outer traveling, which I thought was quite a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, it's a heady one. And Tom Carter on this track that we've chosen from Charlambides, he plays the guitar solo on there. I think Tom is also in our contemporary age slightly undersung for such an oversized talent and cosmic explorer. So yeah, this one came together for me that way.
That was Julie Beth Napolin with the title track of the 2024 album Only the Void Stands Between Us, the finale choice of my guest mixer this week, Ethan Miller. So, Ethan, have you enjoyed doing your mix, and have you enjoyed coming on the show?
Yeah, very much. Both. Yeah, both. Obviously, I'm a musical enthusiast, and the mixtape stuff's fun. Love talking about music with you. So thank you for having me on.